Hi, everybody, and welcome to our complimentary webinar, which is brought to you today in partnership with our amazing partners, GRIST. And we are lucky enough today to hear from some of the amazing winners from this year's Auscontact Excellence Awards. This webinar today will actually share some of the insights that we are lucky to have GRIST share with us in relation to the Service Excellence and the Sales Excellence Awards. In the spirit of reconciliation, Auscontact would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, waters, and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all First Nations people joining us here today. I am Fran Southwood, CEO of Auscontact, and I am your moderator for today. As I said, we have some fantastic hosts, co-hosts, presenters joining us today. Firstly, the opportunity for you is always increased when you interact with us. We've got an amazing panel, so if you've got some great questions or comments that you'd like to share, let's make sure you jump in and use either the chat or the Q&A feature. You're all old hands at this by now, so type any questions that you might have as you're going. And if it's relevant to what's being talked about by any one of the panel members, we'll jump in and ask it. Otherwise, we'll keep it for the end, where we'll have some time for Q&A, where we can go through any additional questions that you may have. If you have any technical issues whilst we're working through the webinar today, use the raise hand feature and one of the team from Auscontact will jump in and see if they can help. Alternatively, you will have had in your registration email the relevant phone numbers that you can dial in on, so you're welcome to revert to that. I'm now going to introduce our panel for you here today. As I said, we are lucky enough to have a couple of our partners from GRIST. We've got David McQueen, who's the Director, Head of Sales and Marketing. And we've also got Kate Goldby, who's the Senior Behavioural Analyst, both with GRIST. Guys, welcome. We love working with you all year round, and we'll hear a little bit more about the processes we work through, but thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Good to be here.
In addition, we have, of course, our amazing award winners from 2024. So we do 2 awards with GRIST, one that is for sales and one that is for service. Our 2 winners for 2024, we have NIB Travel. Represented today, we've got Tegan Judge and Sam O'Shea from NAB. So welcome, guys. Fantastic to have you. We can't wait to learn a little bit more about all of the things that you guys are focused on. Clearly, it's coming through, and we joke about the competitive nature of this award itself, and we can't wait to hear a little bit more about that as we go through. And then additionally, we've got Stephen McCarrick, who is the Senior Sales Team Manager from Noble Oak Insurance. Stephen, welcome to the session today. Again, super excited to hear more about what is being done at Noble Oak and really where you're getting those breakthroughs and wins with your customers. So fantastic for that. But I'm going to stop talking, and Dave, I'm going to hand over to you to kick us off on our webinar today. So let's get started.
Thanks, Fran, and hi, everyone. It's a pleasure for us to be here. We're excited to explore with you what made the winners and finalists stand out in their respective Service and Sales Excellence Awards. So what we'll do is we'll start off a little bit about who we are at GRIST and then how the awards were assessed. And then Kate's going to share with us some of the key behavioural insights from first the Service and then from the Sales Award. And then we're going to hear directly from the leaders of the winning teams for their deeper perspectives, which will be cool. So at GRIST, we have some beliefs that kind of guide everything that we do. We believe great conversations, whether with customers or teams or leaders, are the glue that actually allows organisations to thrive. And over 30 years, we've kind of seen how small, frequent changes can create huge impacts in outcomes, especially when their leaders get behind these changes. And we use these beliefs to bring to life our vision of creating faster and smarter pathways whether that's in sales or service or leadership or any type of learning really. And now with leveraging tech like AI, we're able to do that better than ever. So our mission, like it is today, is to celebrate excellence and to highlight how we go about making sure every conversation counts. And so we talk about how we go about doing that. Well, firstly, what we do is we developed what some of you will know as micro-behavioural frameworks. So what we do is we take a conversation framework like what's shown on the left here, and we map out the intent of each phase of that conversation. And then we define that in terms of behaviours, in terms of what any third party observer could actually see and hear. Now, these micro behaviours are often so small that it significantly reduces the time it takes to train people. So it's certainly faster to be customer ready. And these tiny little micro behaviours are actually quite easy to see or hear when you know how and what to look for. And often it's a binary type of assessment. And that is that they are either present or they're not in a conversation. And this allows for objective and transparent measurement that gives you insight into what's happening within your conversations. You know, they're really easy for leaders to coach to, and when you choose the right ones for your conversation, they can really make conversations sing. And for me, that's definitely a smarter way to go. It's worth pointing out that micro behaviours, they're not a script. And as you'll see when we look at some of the examples of these key micro behaviours, this kind of framework allows for self-expression and flexibility. I mean, after all, you know, we're still always people talking to people. You know? So if we talk about the method for assessment, we have to assess calls from a range of different industries, which is not necessarily that easy to do. So each team or organisation had to submit 10 calls to be eligible for both the service and the sales awards. Now, over the years, GRIST have assessed well over 70,000 different types of conversations, and we have over 70 different micro behaviours that we can assess for against different types of calls, different types of industries. But industries have different regulations, which of course doesn't always make for an even playing ground. So what we've done is we developed a smaller subset of around 20 micro behaviours for each of service and sales that are suitable across all industry types. Each team was assessed and compared against a benchmark of 1,600 service and 1,500 sales calls that we assessed across 20 to 2024. And to be a finalist in these awards, you had to perform above the benchmark. So that's a bit about how we do it. So with that in mind, let's look more deeply into the 2024 Service Award finalists and see why they came out on top. If you're at the fantastic event a few weeks ago at the Auscontact National Awards, it was our pleasure to see that NIB Travel came out on top for service for the first time, just edging out Synergy and NIB Health. So again, congratulations to all three of you for all performing above our industry benchmark. So with that, Kate, as our Chief Assessor, let's dig into the Service Award in a little bit more detail. Can you give some insights into what these three finalists did so well?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dave. Let's get into the data. So a little bit of a background and explanation how we're going to look at the data. And this is what we call our customer journey graph. And what it is, it's basically a pretty simple frequency graph. On the y-axis, up there on the left, we've got how often a behaviour was assessed or observed by our assessors. And along the x-axis from left to right down the bottom are the behaviours that we were looking at. So if you saw a line at the 100%, that means our assessors observed that every time. 0%, it wasn't observed at all. So let's get in and have a look at what that data looks like. So that customer journey from the left to the right, it follows a very typical service contact centre conversation, beginning with the engage, the discovery, and moving on to solution and close. Typically, how a customer would progress through the conversation. Now, what you can see there, the dark blue line is our service excellence data for 2024. So that's our service cohort for this year. And the lighter blue bars are our 1,600 service assessments that Dave just mentioned. So they've been assessed in the last 5 years. So they're still very relevant to the current market. And just a reminder that the cohort for this year, all of the service excellence conversations and the sales excellence were all randomly selected. So we asked our participants to get calls from a specific date and time. So there was no cherry picking of the best calls or the best consultants within an organisation. And so what we expect to see here is that these patterns would be very similar to our wider GRIST average data. And really, that's what we've seen here. We see very similar peaks and troughs there, with a few exceptions, as you can see, and we'll dig into those a little bit more deeply in a moment.
So looking at this data, Kate, what would you say separates a good call from a great one? What can we kind of tell from the data? Is it just consistency, or are there magic moments in play?
Yeah, look, I think you hit the nail on the head there with the consistency. It makes a massive difference. But consistency doesn't have to mean doing every behaviour on every conversation. It could just mean that you have all of your consultants doing 4 or 5 behaviours on every conversation really well. And that's what we call sort of our hero or signature focus behaviours. And having those means that you sort of have a map of your conversation in little markers, I suppose, throughout that your guiding light, that you can do those really well, and they help to really just navigate through the conversation and make it a much smoother, clearer journey for customers, but also for the consultants. All right, well, now we've had a look at that overall, let's dig into some of the trends that we saw with our service data. Okay, so some of the big trends that we picked up, and I'm sure you probably saw that in the previous graph, is that all service contact centres consistently provided customers with a single tailored solution. So because customers are being offered that solution that matches the needs that they've given to consultants, there's an increased probability that customers are going to agree and be satisfied with the solution that their consultant gives them. And we saw that in the journey, that this is very much in keeping with what we see within the wider service contact centres throughout Australia. Most customers that call a contact centre for a customer service inquiry do get a tailored solution. Another trend that stood out to me was that 80% of consultants in this cohort, the participants in the Service Excellence Awards, ask questions to understand customers' current situation or how they use a product. And this is over twice as often as what we saw in the GRIST average, the wider community. And what that really does is just equips consultants with information that they need to provide that tailored solution that we were just talking about. And thinking about outcomes of behaviours, these two really weigh heavily into the likelihood of first call resolution.
I suppose it's like, a tailored solution is like crafting a bespoke suit or something like that. It fits perfectly and makes the customer feel valued. In contrast, just getting the coffee order right, it's kind of expected nowadays, and it won't necessarily make your service stand out. Kate, do those analogies kind of work?
Yeah, I like the suit one in that I would almost tweak it. It's almost like you're just off the rack, bulk buy, suit centre, suit mega mart might be just a solution that could be thrown to any customer. But that tailored solution is, getting a specifically tailored garment, or even just being able to get alterations, right? Something that's just a bit more bespoke to you as a customer.
Right.
All right. And a little bit of how that sounded. We've got a few little comments there of how those behaviours sounded. All right, well, now that we've looked at some overall trends, let's zoom in again and highlight some of the behaviours that our winners and our finalists did particularly well. And we'll start with our winners, NIB Travel. So before I get into exactly how they set themselves apart, I'll alert you to the top right-hand corner there, and that's what we're calling our conversation navigator. And what that really does is, because we're going to be jumping around with different behaviours that particular organisations did particularly well, it gives you just a bit of perspective as to where in the conversation those behaviours fit. And so this cluster of behaviours we're calling our bookending the conversation. And you can see in that conversation navigator why that name is so appropriate. You've got some behaviours at the beginning and some there at the end. And we call that, the hello, goodbye behaviours, really.
Yeah. Like when you look at them all, like NIB is so strong here. So, I mean, why is it so important to kind of like start and strong so Henley like bookend the conversation like that?
Yeah, cool. So look, I think it aligns really with the primacy and recency effect, right? So you remember those first few moments of a conversation, they really, I guess, shape how you are feeling, and that how you establish trust and set yourself, set the tone for the rest of the conversation, and whether that's a really confident, warm opening from a consultant, or conversely, a really disorganized, unsure tone can do the absolute opposite for a conversation. And we all know that final impressions really matter too. So ending the conversation and on a positive note can hugely impact the overall perception of how that conversation as a whole went.
Good point. Well, great work, NLB Travel. They're great numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. And that are a couple of verbatims of how I heard these behaviours being exhibited throughout the conversations that were submitted. Let's jump into another lot of NIB cluster behaviours here, and this is our thorough customer solutions. So NIB Travel really excelled at providing their customers with just a really thorough, well-rounded solution by educating them on the attributes of their products and explaining the process as they progressed throughout their conversations. Let's have a look at how that looks. We can see there with the educating that they almost did it 3 times more likely than both the service excellence cohort and the wider GRIST data that we were comparing to.
And when you hear this, Kate, like, hear the behaviours, but how does the customer respond to when they hear these types of behaviours?
Yeah, so we're often hearing just a really a relaxed reassurance that the customer is being understood, and that it makes sense to them. It's also a bit of what you don't hear, and so what you don't hear is customers asking handfuls of follow-up questions because they're not really sure on the ins and outs of a solution that's being provided, and you're also not hearing that customer with an uncertain tone because the consultant's really taken the time to give that information, convey that confidence, that expertise up front. And providing that thorough solution doesn't really mean that, you hear thorough, you go, well, that's long, it's going to take a long time, right? But actually, it can go a long way to creating a real sense of core control because you are filling that customer with the certainty, the confidence, the expertise. It can avoid those follow-up questions. It can avoid possibly follow-up conversations, phone calls back into the call centre, and go a long way to reducing AHT, in fact. Hey, well, let's have a look at, well, there's some of the behaviours there, and don't worry about having to read those through on the spot. You'll receive all of this in our insights pack post-webinar. Let's have a look at some of our other finalists. Here we've got Synergy, and we're calling them our value amplifiers. And how they stood out from the group is their propensity to add value to their customer conversations. This is some of the ways they did that. Yeah, sorry, Dave, I cut you off there.
Oh, I say it's interesting because we often see that these behaviours tend to score very low in our service benchmark. So, you know, I mean, you've assessed tens of thousands of these, right? So, you know, with your experience listening to these service conversations where small value add behaviours are included, like what's the impact on conversations of including them?
Yeah, I mean, and it's only ever positive. I've yet to hear, like you said, in the hundreds of thousands of conversations that I've listened to, that the reactions are, delight, surprise, interest, curiosity, gratitude, engagement, all of those, positive things that we want to have from our customer interactions. And customers are never going to be unhappy with you trying to help them use a product or service better. And many customer service consultants get hung up on evaluating being, cross-selling or upselling. But that's not really what this is about when it comes to the service stream. It's more about sort of alerting to, maybe complementary services, online offerings, or educating them and allowing customers to, self-serve in the future possibly and avoid phone calls if that's how they prefer to interact with your organisation. It's about making the customer's life easier.
Yeah, I imagine doing the digital self-serve, it's pretty common for people right now. Pretty big need.
Absolutely, and especially now that the chats have come so much further. Yeah, absolutely. And let's not leave out our third finalist, NIB Private Health Insurance, and we're calling them our people. And you can have a look at those behaviours, and it's pretty clear to see why we're calling that those behaviours, where they've really shone. Customer name, using customer name on the majority of calls, and having a really genuine emotional response to customers. They're just a couple of examples of how we heard it when we were listening to their conversations.
Yeah, it's really strong, isn't it? NIB Health, they did a great job of empathy by using names and adding personal touches by the look. So, would you say that these moments of connection are what elevate a call from simply good to a great one, and when you compare them?
Yeah, absolutely. And, not just even elevating a call, but elevating a company. I found that in listening to a lot of health insurance conversations is that health insurance customers can be really, really loyal. And I've heard plenty of times where, customers have been with the same company for, generations. Their kids are now getting the same health insurance company that they had when they first got married. And so these behaviours is where that loyalty is really built. Feeling that deeper connection, I suppose, with a provider servicing something, so important as your personal health is, but it can be applicable across so many industries. It just really elevates the experience and your feeling towards the organisation as well.
Yeah, there always is a little bit of emotional connection to you're my supplier, it's my brand, like that, like after me, and they're always over time that emotional connection just kind of builds if you get serviced well, right? So,
absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, let's hear from our winners, shall we, Kate?
Yeah,
Tegan and Sam.
I'm going to stop sharing so we can see them.
From NIB Travel, welcome. Hey, firstly, congratulations on being recognised as our service winner for 2024. Really, as we saw, your team's performance has really set a new standard, and it's a pleasure to get this opportunity to dive in to what makes your success sort of stand out. So Kate and I have a few questions for you, if that's okay.
Yeah, we'd love to hear them.
Great. First question, we've looked at some of the behaviours that kind of stand out during your calls, but how do you see behaviours like what we've just described sort of like contributing to your success?
Yeah, look, behaviours, they're all really important to the way we approach and personalise our calls with our travellers. So we really make sure that we want to focus on engaging them throughout the whole call. So those small behaviours we see in the beginning of the call, so important for us to set that up so that we can really connect with them. Our whole goal is to have our customers coming back to us and having that repeat business. So making sure we've got those behaviours in place at the beginning of the call, and then being able to draw on them and utilize them throughout the call as well, linking back in at the farewell at the end of the call, talking about the trip that they're going on, wishing them well. It's a big part of what's making us successful. And the beauty of our business is it's fun to talk about, you know, people that are planning travel and where they're going. So we really hone in on that and make sure that our behaviours are really building that connection with each and every one of our customers.
Yeah, great. Well, you know, there's a difference between knowing and doing, isn't there? You know, so we all know that these behaviours are important, and yet, you know, when Kate and the team, when we listen to them, we just don't hear them all that regularly. So well done, really consistent in the team.
Thank you.
And I'd love to really dig into, we so often hear about how we get to getting results like this and getting behaviours well, but I'd really like to take a look at perhaps the outcomes of when those behaviours are done well from a few different perspectives. And I guess we can begin with, you know, customer outcomes. You know, what outcomes have, you know, these behaviours delivered for your customers?
So I guess over the last 12 months, NIB Travel has been on a pretty big journey. Coming back from COVID was a big thing for us to do. We rebuilt a lot of change in our industry and things like that. So these behaviours and these conversations that we have with our travellers have really had a really positive impact on things like our NPS and our first contact resolution from our customers. So we actually finished 10 points above target for our NPS. And we've seen a 12% increase over the past 12 months for that. So we are really, really proud of that. And yeah, obviously the behaviours that we strive for and the conversations that we have really had a massive impact on those increases.
Fantastic. Yeah, and that's just really just backing up exactly what we were talking about when we were looking at the behaviours, right? Yeah. And so how about we take a step inside the centre, and how's that felt for the team?
Yeah, so look, our team feel empowered, and they're really invested in our journey and our vision. So one of the things that we wanted to do in travel when we rebuilt, we rebranded our contact centre. We're called Travel First Class. We want to provide first class interactions with our customers. It's a bit of a, you know, travel pun as well. You always want to be flying first class. So our team are all invested in that goal and in that vision. So they're on the journey with us. So we have such a highly engaged team now. We've seen our engagement scores increase. They're 10% above our company average, and they're 15% above the global benchmark as well. So we've been able to maintain those results for 2 years in a row now since rebuilding. And it's all about that, you know, the focus we have on our travellers wanting to improve, wanting to provide excellence in our interactions, and then providing our team with the support to do that. So yeah, our team are thriving because of it.
Congratulations. Yeah.
I love the first class, like into the team name, because it's obviously pretty obvious to customers, but it also allows you to sort of define what first class sounds like in the conversations too, right? Oh yeah, I hadn't realised the connection. Terrific.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks.
And are there any, I guess, business outcomes? If we take a real step back, what kind of business outcomes can you guys speak to?
Well, we've seen a fair few, you know, increased profitability and marketability. It helps us. We do also like white label for a few different other travel brands. So yeah, having these results and having our conversations like that really help us to market ourselves as a business for people who are looking at a contact centre to sell their travel insurance. So yeah, it really gives us that point of difference, I guess, against our competitors. So yeah.
Right. And I guess from your perspective personally, what would you say is the key to consistency, you know, consistently achieving this level of, you know, of excellence? 2 years in a row, you came second last year and first this year, like that's consistent behaviour. Have you got any tips for everyone else?
Yeah, look, the biggest thing for us is I think the commitment that we make to our leaders. So we talk about, you know, coaching with frontline and making sure that we're providing them with feedback to improve those micro behaviours. But for us, it's about focusing on our leadership team. We can't be having good coaching conversations with frontline if we don't have great skilled leaders that are also, you know, on board wanting to achieve our vision and, you know, invested in our people as well. So we spend a great deal of our time each week and each day focusing on our leaders' growth and development. So we do a lot of, we do call calibrations consistently, and we do that so that we're aligned in how we're measuring success in each of our calls. We talk a lot about the intent of those micro behaviors and making sure that we're aligned with that. You know, what is that? What are we actually trying to achieve with that behavior, and were we successful in achieving that? And then off the back of those call calibrations, we actually do coaching calibrations with our leaders. We got all of our leaders in a room together or via Zoom, and each one of them has to prepare a coaching session based on the prior week's call calibration. Then they come together with that prepared, and they actually role play that in front of each other. So they're learning from each other every week. We're giving them live feedback on the spot. They're all very open to that, and we find that's what really helps improve them week to week. Yes, they have their, you know, their coach the coach sessions with myself and Sam regularly as well. But the call calibrations and the coaching calibrations for us is what really provides that consistency. And I think has been the, you know, what's enabled us to also reach success quickly as well, and turn our results around from, you know, having very limited number of staff in our contact center and then rebuilding almost overnight to be able to get to where we are now. It's all about, yeah, the focus we have on the leaders and providing consistency through those calibration sessions.
I love it. I love it. You know, as an external provider of, you know, these types of services, you know, it's no real surprise when I hear that, because, you know, you've got quality and improvement, continuous improvement baked into your operating rhythm through those leadership conversations, right? And so, oh look, you know, when we see success, it's systematic, right? Like there's no real surprise. Like it's not if, it's when you hit those levels of success, because that's what you're sort of like talking and coaching and all the time. I love it. You really walking the talk, right? Hey, well, congratulations, Tegan, Sam. Why don't please pass on our congratulations to the team as well. What a terrific job. And thank you so much for giving us a bit of time and coming and sharing those insights with us. We're about halfway through, so we'll keep moving on if it's okay. And we'll get into the Sales Excellence Award. And here, you know, what you see is Noble Oak just beat out NIB Travel, sorry, Tegan, and Sam, and also NIB Health to take out the award. So, Kate, let's have a look. Let's have a look at what Noble Oak did to come out on top.
Absolutely, let's do it. So again, we've got our customer journey with our frequency graph here for the 2024 Sales Excellence Award data. And you'll remember from before, this is displaying how often we as an assessment team observe the behaviours along the bottom there, and that dark in that x-axis. So the darker pink line there is our current cohort of all the submitted recordings for our Sales Excellence Award this year. And the lighter pink bars are our GRIST average of over 1,500 sales conversations, again, in the last 5 years.
Yeah, I always got to turn my head to the side.
I know. They're a bit of a, it should come with a free chiropractic service. Yeah.
Hey, but I mean, I love this data. And, you know, when I looked at it the first time, the one thing that sort of stood out, if you have a look at the solutions presented in the second half of these conversations, they're consistently strong, right? There's not a lot of difference between like the benchmark and the top assessed calls. But you notice the difference in the first half of the conversation. So, you know, engage and discovery behaviours, they kind of really stand out as in the top sales assessments this year. So it's quite remarkably different. So Kate, you know, how does the customer experience differ when a strong solution, because everyone's doing sort of like pretty strong solutions, but when a strong solution follows a mediocre or an average engage and discovery phase, you know, compared to when it follows a strong one?
Yeah, it's absolutely possible to tick all the boxes as far as a thorough solution goes, but having an underwhelming engage and discovery really comes into play then when you sort of move to how well a customer receives that solution, right? So, you know, if you pay more attention, if a consultant pays more attention and understands a customer, you know, through the engage and through the discovery, it really gives the customer confidence that their needs will be fulfilled, and they've really established that foundation of trust, I suppose, early in the conversation. And that goes through to increasing the likelihood that that customer will accept a sales solution, feel that it is specifically for them, and more likely accept that sale.
And you kind of said it before as well when you said it's about what you don't hear. And I think in here when you see this done well, what you don't hear is a lot of objections. They're fewer and they're less severe in intent, right? Because they've done this engage and discovery phase pretty well. So it's a nice distinction that this data shows here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's jump into a couple of trends that we saw. So just like with the service customers, we saw 100% of sales customers leaving with a specific sales solution with adequate features, descriptions. And not only that, most of the consultants took the time to explain at least one or more of how those features actually worked, and we call them our attributes. And 88% of customers were reassured by a clear, confident statement of assistance at the beginning of their conversation. And 90% of consultants responded genuinely with customers, creating authentic connection and by understanding the situation and showing empathy. This is just a few examples of how that sounded.
Yeah, you kind of hear that strong statement of assistance often, right? But still, only 88%. It's not as common as what I thought it would be, because it's pretty easy behaviour to do. So, I mean, can you hear the difference in a customer's reaction when you hear a behaviour like a strong statement of assistance? Like, what is the impact of having it early in the call?
Yeah, so I guess it really just sets that element of confidence, expertise, trust that they're going to be taken care of through that conversation. And I don't know about you, but I have real phone anxiety when I'm calling a contact center. I'd much rather do something online or sort it out myself. But if I do need to call, I want someone straight away to go, cool, I've got you, I've heard you, I can help you with that. I can absolutely do that for you.
Yeah, and I think Tegan sort of spoke about it before when she said that they help leaders to coach the outcome. What's the objective of the behaviour? And it's actually about helping the customer feel relaxed and making them feel assured. So, I think when you understand why the behaviour is in there, then it becomes a little bit more likely to be done. Kate, when your experience when it comes to a strong statement of assistance, what makes this resonate with most customers? Is it language? Is it tone? Or is it something else?
Well, I think both of those in combination. Obviously, we're on the phone, so we don't have the visual cues that we do rely on so heavily in our sort of day-to-day life. So for this, we really want to hear strong language, words like definitely, absolutely, certainly, something really assertive. We want to hear a personal ownership. I can help you. I can do that for you. Something like that. And just the tone says a lot to a customer on confidence, on ability, all of those things. So the three in combination really make the whole work. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay, so we've had a look at our general trends for service. Let's jump into our finalists and we'll begin with our winners, Noble Oak. So the first cluster of behaviours we've got for Noble Oak are our understanding customer motivation. So that's about the key drivers for the inquiry, the broad needs, I suppose, that a customer has called in for. And this helps consultants ensure that solutions provided, like they satisfy that driving need. And we can see here that Noble Oak are attempting that on every single conversation.
Yeah, it's just really interesting, isn't it? Like, I love the, identify the why, but expanding on the why doesn't seem to be happening in so many sales calls. So, Kate, what's the difference between identify the why and expanding on the why, and why do you think it's so low?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the GRIST average sales data, that light pink line for the identify the why, is a little bit of a hint. I think there's a general trepidation, I suppose, to even ask one question about the customer's reason for calling. with only just over half of the greater group doing so. And I think it really comes down to a fear of losing control of the call and not being in control and knowing how to respond to the customer's response, I suppose. It's easier to stick to features questions where they're absolute answers and they're experts in. And Noble Oak are terrific and very consistent at asking that first identify the broad background reason for customers calling, but they're not great at digging that little bit deeper.
I suppose a little bit like that metaphor about peeling back the layers of an onion is kind of apt here, isn't it? Like, the first one helps us understand the motivation, but the one deeper, the expanding on the why, really starts to help us understand the real drivers behind a decision.
Yeah. And it's about asking that initial sort of reasoning, but sort of expanding on the why really reveals deeper motivations, I suppose, which often surface the real drivers, and maybe something that the customer hasn't consciously thought of until the question's been asked, and forces them to think a little bit deeper. And what that does is that can really mean that the solution provided perfectly sort of gels with their beliefs, their intents, and how they will use it in the future.
Yeah, I agree. When you dig a little bit deeper and you expand on that why, you get a customer to justify their reasons or to explain their reasons behind a certain decision. And sometimes when they explain it, they kind of go, yeah, that really reinforces it. Or sometimes it goes, actually, I'm not that convinced by that. That's maybe not that right. So it's really important behavior to be able to help open them up to different viewpoints or different ideas.
Absolutely. All right, let's jump into our next area of expertise from Noble Oak. And that's the ability to provide well-rounded solutions while ensuring customers fully understand and appreciate recommendations. It's hugely important to ensure that customers have the tools and the confidence to make educated sales decisions. And we covered this area within our service thorough solution. It's very similar, but the sales stream of that.
Yeah,
Have a look at the data.
Look how they strong they are in the upper right quadrant of present the solution. So summarizing key points here, it's one of my favorite behaviors of all time. It's active listening in action. So often, we've all gone to training programs over the years and done training on active listening. And sometimes you don't really need it. If you just get someone to really summarize the key points of a conversation, all of a sudden, their listening just turns on. So Kate, is the difference between how the average consultant sort of does this and compared to how the best consultants do this behavior?
Well, I would say that the average ones don't do it, right? So it really is it's the mark of a consultant that's really intent on that customer outcome of being confident and well taken care of and transparent. It's summarizing both the sort of the rational and the emotional points. So our example there with the Noble Oak life insurance example there, the rational being the actual product part, the emotional being, what is it for, is a really great way to summarize those key points before moving into the solution. It also helps consultants kind of order their thoughts before, moving into solution phase, right? So it kind of goes, okay, so what have I got? I've got all my bits. Is this about what we're thinking? Yes, good. All right, let's find something for you then.
Yeah, great. That makes sense. Kate, and moving on, what about the end of the call? Noble Oak were pretty strong in that and phase 2. Yeah,
absolutely. So we've got the explain attributes. So they've done that on every single conversation. So a bit of a idea of where sort of features, attributes, and benefits lie. Features would be something like, if I was to pick phones, for example, a phone's 12 megapixel camera might be a feature. The attribute would be what it does. So it captures high quality photos in low light, something like that. So the benefit would be that if, well, I've very unsuccessfully tried to capture the aurora australis this year on many an early morning, late night, and so the benefit might be that you can get out at 3 a.m. in the morning and capture that beautiful photo to make all of your social media followers very jealous.
Got it. This is one of the reasons that we assess attributes in the sales conversation and not benefits, because not all of you would be able to describe benefits. If you're on a factual or no advice conversation type, you're not able to provide benefits. You're much more able to talk attributes. So because we assess both personal advice and no advice conversations in this assessment, we only talk about attributes, and we avoid the assessment of benefits, because it's not an even playing field for everybody.
Absolutely. And we've got one other highlight to make for Noble Oak, and that's asking for the sale. Since we're talking about sales calls here, we should assume that a customer is going to be asked for their business at some point, but that doesn't always happen. As you can see there, Noble Oak are doing it on every conversation.
Wow.
They're directly asking for the sale every conversation that they have with their customers. It helps move the conversation from an informative discussion to a more decision-making process. And surprisingly enough, you guessed it, improves conversion. They're not going to sign up if they're not asked, right? And you'll see that second lot of data there, the confident sales close. And that is a clear question requiring a customer to give a yes/no response. Hopefully, absolutely would be great. Passive sales close on the converse, which would be the remaining gap there, would be something like, if you want to go ahead today, I can do that on the phone, or I could send you a quote or an email and you can get back to us, or something that a customer can, it's just a bit wishy-washy. It's not asking for a direct response from a customer. Yeah.
Well, Steve and the Noble Oak team, well done. We don't say 100% at all often, so congrats.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks very much.
All right, let's jump. Oh, there's a few examples there that you can have a read through later on. Let's jump into some of our other finalists, and we'll start with NIB Private Health. And we spoke before about the fear of asking those follow-up open-ended questions when we were looking at the data for expand on the why, to gain deeper insights into customer situations and motivations. And NIB are doing that more confidently and in more conversations than the rest. And so we haven't really touched on the benefit of asking open questions versus closed questions. And the benefit of the open question is that it just uncovers more information more efficiently. What it can also do is uncover unexpected information. I touched upon it with the lifestyle questions before. Consultants don't always know exactly, where a customer is coming from. So by asking a really open question, you're really letting the customer kind of give you those little pointers and help you organise where the solutions could be found within that information. And it also gives the customer a lot more agency in the conversation and in the interaction, makes them feel that they're in control of their own outcome, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, look at their performance on expand on the why. I mean, we spoke about that behaviour before, but I mean, that's insane what NIB Private Health have done. So I got nothing to say except you legends. That's a great outcome in a behaviour like that.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And our service winners, NIB Travel, have also made finalists with the sales. And what we saw them do so well was exactly the same as what they were doing in their service contact centre. And it was about making that great first impression. And you can see there, look at those behaviours. For every single one of them, they just, hit it out of the park. What a way to kick off a conversation.
Kate, you've done tens of thousands of these calls, right? So you've seen firsthand how important first impressions are. And research also tells us that first impressions last. But in your experience, does it really a strong first impression truly set up the rest of the call for success? Like, is it that important?
Look, yeah, like you said, there's plenty of research to support that idea, but it all comes down to just setting a tone, right, and establishing that trust and that increased likelihood of engagement throughout the conversation, because that's so important to be able to provide that great solution, to get the customer on board, get them talking, get them interacting with you in a trusted environment. So absolutely, I notice the change when a conversation is began well.
So can you give us the folks a bit of an idea? If you just sort of said the first 3 or 4 words of each of those behaviours, it might give us a bit of an idea about what the start of this call sort of like sounds like. Can you give us the first 3 or 4 words?
Yeah, absolutely. So a strong statement of persistence, like I said before, strong language, personal ownership. So absolutely, I can help you with that today. Then you'd follow it up with an introduce to process, sort of like an agenda. So what we're going to do today, we'll start with blah, 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 take you through a little dot point so the customer's got that transparency. Seek permission to proceed would be, does that sound okay? Get them to verbally accept that they're on board for that conversation, increases the likelihood of engagement through that discovery phase. Using customer name, it sounds like it should be just assumed, but as you can see, it doesn't happen on half of conversations in the bigger cohort. And that seek to engage at the start of the call, it might sound something like, if we were to take it right out of a call center, something like, they could be hearing bird noises in the background. It sounds like you're in a beautiful place. Where are you calling from today? Something just to get them chatting about, not specific to the conversation. But it can also happen later in the conversation. And say if we use NIB Travel here as an example, and I think Tegan mentioned this when she was chatting about how they have built these rapports with their customers. Travel insurance is a really easy one. Sounds like you're going on a lovely trip. Have you got anything specific planned? Are you going for an event or just, going for work? All those kind of questions, just get the customers talking, get them without even thinking about it, giving you some more tips on how you can provide the best solution for them.
Yeah, got it. Hey, just for time, it's probably a good time to bring in Steve from Noble Oak.
Absolutely, let's do it.
So, hey, Steve, again, firstly, congratulations to you and the team for being the sales winner for 2024. Again, a couple of questions for you. If we looked at, we've looked at some of the behaviours that have made you successful and coming out on top, but how central are these types of behaviours to your approach, and how do you see these behaviours contributing to the success of your team?
Yeah, it's really important. As you can see from the graph earlier, our agents really score really highly in the first half of the call. With a sales call, it's important to really engage with the client early on, build strong rapport to create trust and connection. This can be quite easily done with a good discovery question, so just having an open conversation with the client about what their needs are, why they're in the market, even down to the point of asking, are they in the market for the first time, or do they have cover elsewhere that they're looking to replace? And then you can kind of really tailor your style or approach to, the client's needs. If someone's in the market for the first time, they might need to be, kind of guided through the process a bit more delicately, whereas someone's looking to switch, they've probably got their head around some industry jargon and stuff already. So you can kind of really, adapt your approach depending on that. And then, of course, then you can just offer a specific solution based on the answers given during the discovery. And yeah, just maintaining that kind of connection throughout the call, checking with the client throughout the process, just checking in, does that make sense? Do you have any questions so far? And again, that will help minimize objections in the back end when you're trying to close the sale.
And how have you seen customers react to the use of these behaviours? What outcomes have you seen there?
Yeah, well, I guess it leads to overall kind of customer satisfaction, and that you've sold them a product that they actually needed, and you've took the time and the care to really listen to the client, be really open and honest with the client, full transparency, and the client feels that they've been heard, and you haven't just tried to sell them a load of products, just offering loads of cross sales and that sort of thing, and really taking your time to listen to the client, what they want, and then building a package around that. and then of course towards the end of the call, asking, answer all your questions today. Is there anything else I can help you with? And just giving a summary of what it is we've discussed and what products they've applied for.
Fantastic. And if we, I guess, look back inside the call centre, you as a team leaders, managers, what outcomes have you noticed?
Well, I guess winning an award like this is a fantastic recognition for the team and for all their efforts, kind of all that hard work paying off. And it serves as a reward, and I guess it kind of helps towards, we do have a really long tenure within the sales team because people do feel proud to work for, an award-winning sales team.
Yeah, absolutely. And are there any sort of wider business outcomes that you can speak to?
Yeah, so in terms of business, it's kind of, we do maintain pretty, industry leading conversions. So, we do tend to get a lot of applications and sales through the kind of process that we have. Excellent phone conversations contribute to really positive client feedback. And we also achieve really high ratings in review platforms such as FIFO, currently with a 4.7 stars and a platinum award for 8 consecutive years.
Terrific, amazing. And we spoke about hero behaviours, focus behaviours, signature behaviours before, and I know that's been a big focus for you. We spoke to Moana a couple of years ago and she talked us through the journey of selecting those focus signature behaviours. And what would you say that that's, I guess, really important to the consistency that you guys have with, achieving this level of excellence?
Yeah, so definitely, specifically for like sales, we made it, a point to introduce the kind of discovery questions, the asking for the business, and the kind of the check-ins throughout the call, incorporated not into necessarily a script, but like a conversation guide for the agents. So it's something that's at the forefront of the mind on every call. So that's kind of the standard now within the sales team, has been for the last couple of years. So these are like kind of the main objectives that they need to hit in each call.
Yeah, amazing. Steve, that's great. I mean, we're just on top. That's terrific insights, and thanks for sharing. And to Tegan and Sam, and so thank you so much, because it's so nice. We talk about the inputs, the behaviours, but we don't always get to understand the outcomes. And so it's really nice for you to be able to share a little bit around cause and effect. So well done. Thanks for giving us your time. Just to wrap it up, because friend, we will hang around for extra questions, but just to wrap this up a little bit, these awards are more than just about recognition. They're actually about understanding the science behind what makes a great conversation. Every single team that participated will receive a personalised report with these behavioural insights, what was done well and what can be improved. So if you want to dive a little bit deeper into your report, we're more than happy to provide a conversation debrief with you and go into it in a little bit more detail. Just because you're part of Auscontact, so we're happy to help. And as a thank you to all of you for joining today, we're also going to be sharing out a PDF summarising the key findings of today's webinar, but also a tool to be able to help you put some of those insights into practice. So if today's insights have resonated, we'd love for you to be part of next year's Sales and Service Excellence Awards. It's a great opportunity to be able to get actionable, tailored feedback that can shape your team's success for just for being a member of Auscontact. So we're delighted to be part of it. So Fran, thank you very much. That's all we had, unless there's any questions.
Awesome. And thanks, Dave. Thanks, Kate. And thank you to our amazing winners. We love showcasing the great things you're doing, and probably just a heads up, we'll want to do a further deep dive with you guys into, if you think about the stuff you've discussed today, it's not about having to roll out some highly expensive technology. It's not about, some, hocus pocus, whatever. It's stuff that is in your control. And it's amazing listening to each of you talk about the successes that what you are doing is driving. It also sounds as though you're actually removing some of the noise that can sometimes be what managers get bogged down in, and really empowering your people, giving them safety rails, but really empowering them. Steve, I think you were saying, people can make adjustments when they're talking to a customer based on their experience. Tegan and Sam, you talked about
that visibility of the experience or the membership experience that someone's had with NIB, the trips that they've taken, the experience that they've had. It all makes for these meaningful interactions that actually make people feel a particular way. And it's why they come back. So, you know, we love that message that really, you know, understanding, and Dave, you touched on it, understanding the science behind this actually helps you make decisions within your business that are totally within your control as leaders. So we are really excited to learn more about that in some further deep dive winner interviews. So heads up to all of you. We can't wait for that. Kate and David, thank you so much. We love partnering with GRIST because, again, this is all about looking for ways to help members create interactions that are helping with the bottom line. We might all have a different bottom line, but we still have one, right? So this is all about how do you enhance and how do you equip your leaders and your frontline people to actually make a difference and enjoy doing it while they're doing it. Because from all of you, it continues to resound that your people actually enjoy what they're doing. And that's about the environment and the culture, and creating, again, this culture of empowered decision makers is super effective when it comes to the results it drives for your organisation. So thanks everyone for coming along today. Like we heard from David and from Kate, we will actually send out some information, including some of the deep dive into what set both NIB Travel and Noble Oak apart from the others that were within there. And you would have seen some of those results in some of those categories were just like achieving 100% in anything is kind of extraordinary. So seeing that sort of consistency and the impact it's making, hopefully there's an opportunity for more to be involved next year. You know, bring it to NIB and Noble Oak. But equally, you know, it's a process, right? There's a bit of a tail when it comes to investing in your people and actually building these critical capabilities to seeing results. So it's something that isn't set and forget. And what I love seeing, particularly from NIB and Noble Oak, you guys keep looking to push this. You keep looking to say, actually, that was great, we won it, or we came second or whatever, but where else? What's the next part of this for us to focus on and to really sort of hone in and build that skill? So cannot wait to see what that brings for everybody next year. But thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
See you.